In this exclusive KGB film footage we obtained, on the right is the agent posing as a priest. On the left is the chief assistant to Cardinal Vilo.
Devo tornare all'ufficio, devo fare cose lì e tutto il resto. Spero che... Ecco che arriva.
The third man is actually another KGB agent, no doubt placed in the organization by the Illuminati. He is also seeking to gain access to the Cardinal.
Sì, questo mi dà molto piacere. Bene, molto lì. Bravo, bravo, fatto il show. Così abbiamo la sua collaborazione. Sì, bene, bene. Molto pubblico e chiederemo molta considerazione di questo. Sappiamo quanto importante è per noi questa collaborazione.
When Vilo's assistant is sent on his customary monthly trip to Milan, the KGB installs a camera in his hotel room. In typical KGB fashion, the priest is about to be set up to be blackmailed to assure his continued cooperation. Over several days, a woman becomes friendly with him and gains his trust. The film shows that the trap was well set. One night, the woman comes to his room to take him to a dinner meeting.
Ho soltanto del buon vino rosso,
While he is briefly away pouring drinks, she takes off her blouse. The film ends abruptly. But no matter what the outcome of the encounter was, the brief shot of this priest with a half-dressed woman in his room is damaging enough to guarantee his future assistance in the surveillance of Vilo's activities. Certainly in the near future, the Illuminati-controlled KGB agents will begin looking for ways to manipulate Vilo himself. Once that is accomplished, they will be extremely close to the very heart of the Catholic religion, Pope Paul VI. But it appears that the Illuminati was not content with exerting only influence to control the Vatican. They sometimes resorted to murder. Since the founding of the Illuminati, a number of officials have died at the Vatican under highly suspicious circumstances, including 3 popes. In each case, the death of the official was timed so as to have a great political significance, the telltale mark of the secret brotherhood influencing world politics for their benefit. In 1939, Pope Pius XI was poised to release a statement condemning both the Nazis and the fascists, groups doing the kind of evil that the Illuminati would be behind. But before he could make the public statement, he suddenly died. A close assistant, Cardinal Tisserand, was heard to repeat again and again in French, "They have assassinated him! They have assassinated him!" His body was quickly embalmed, making an autopsy and proof of cause of death impossible. In 1978, it seemed the secret brotherhood might again be using murder to manipulate the papacy. Paul VI suddenly died. Admittedly, he was frail, but the sudden worsening of his condition seemed all too convenient to many observers. However, this time, the Illuminati architects got a result they probably were not expecting: a pope who would be at odds with them, John Paul I. Almost immediately after he took office, the new pope showed a great deal of independence. It seemed that John Paul had a special distaste for the corruption he had seen was rampant in the Vatican's finances. While he was the Cardinal of Venice, the Venetian Catholic Bank was sold in a secret deal to the Vatican Bank for a greatly undervalued amount. Profits reaped by a few were estimated at more than $70 million, but the losses to the Venetians were great. The clergy of Venice even lost their pension fund. Instrumental in the deal were bankers Roberto Calvi, his mentor Sindona, and the director of the Vatican Bank, Bishop Marcinkus. After John Paul became Pope, these three were still in charge of investing much of the Church's money. In his new position, the pontiff had the power to investigate them and publicly bring out the facts. Altogether, he was poised to uncover illegal dealings that involved almost $1 billion. This would be a serious blow to the Illuminati, who were certainly behind the criminal financial dealings. The danger to the Pope became shockingly clear one day at a private meeting between John Paul and a Russian Orthodox Archbishop, Nicodim. As the meeting began, coffee was poured. Nicodim took the first sip and almost immediately collapsed to the floor and died. His face was very contorted in a horrible and unnatural grimace, as if the death was very painful. The son Pope carefully put down his own cup before he sipped. Certainly it came to his mind that the coffee must have been laced with poison that was meant for him. The official doctor, however, quickly proclaimed that the Archbishop had died from what had become the standard cause for deaths at the Vatican, a massive coronary. All the facts surrounding the mysterious death of the Russian Archbishop Nicodim pointed toward an assassination attempt and a cover-up. The Russian's body was embalmed very quickly after his death, without a prior complete medical examination. After the embalming, it would be impossible to perform an accurate autopsy to determine the cause of death, particularly if it involved poison. Also, the coffee the Archbishop drank was never collected for analysis, and no forensic investigation was ever carried out. Although the proof was gone, to many it was clear that the Pope had narrowly escaped being murdered only 10 days after he was elected. The experience proved so frightening that John Paul called a secret meeting with his top 4 cardinals to discuss the situation. The meeting took place on September the 28th, 1978. Only the 4 cardinals and the Pope were in the room. To this day, it is not known exactly what was said, but afterwards, the Pope was moved to take action. He ended the term of Cardinal Vilo as Secretary of State. This was the same Cardinal Vilo whose assistant had been blackmailed in the KGB films taken in 1972. Over the 6 years, this cardinal must have also been drawn into the Illuminati's web. Removing him meant that the Pope had uncovered at least part of the dark secret. But even John Paul could not avoid his fate at the hands of the Illuminati. That night, the pontiff retired earlier than usual and took with him detailed notes of the secret meeting to deliberate upon. At 5 a.m. the next morning, the Pope's closest attendant, Sister Vincenza, became concerned. His Holiness had never overslept before. She appeared inside his door. John Paul appeared to be sitting in bed with the light on as if he were reading. Various papers were around him. But to her horror, his face was frozen in the same agonized contortion she had seen on the face of the dead Russian Nicodim only days before. After only 33 days as Pope, John Paul was dead. After more than 200 years of protecting their secret ways, the Illuminati was very thorough at covering its tracks. Although the Pope had relieved him of his Secretary of State duties just hours before, Cardinal Vilo took charge. As the senior cardinal, he was now, in essence, the temporary Pope. He first locked himself in the papal bedroom and collected prescription medicine from the bed table and